environment where medicines and treatments of insulin shots and doctor's appointments and occasional trips to the hospital were the norm. I thought every family had a handicap sticker on their car. My parents used to read me this book called 65 Roses. It was about a little girl that went through the things that I witnessed. The only difference was that she went through the treatments where I watched my mother go through them. At 18 months old, my mother, Remi Orlinsky, or Mindy Gerber, was diagnosed with cystic fibrosis. The doctors told her parents they should not expect her to live past the age of 13 years old. That she wouldn't live long enough to get married, let alone have children of her own. That if she had accepted this, she definitely wouldn't have lived as long as she did, or had lived the life she did. The thing about my mother, though, was she didn't really listen to anyone when people ordered her around, whether it was her parents, doctors, friends, or even my father, her husband, Mark. She had a habit of doing the opposite of what they told her to do. When she was young, they told her not to take part in recreational sports such as track and field or softball, because it would shorten her life. She never did play any sports, but she figured out that if she walked on the treadmill, she could strengthen her deteriorating lungs. For as long as I could remember, she would walk on the treadmill for 45 minutes a day as her health deteriorated. Even if it took up to 3 hours with an oxygen tank by her side, she would get those 45 minutes in. It wasn't until about 2004 that she really began to get ill. Doctors had begun consulting with my mother and father about a possible double lung transplant. That was the first family vacation I remember. We went to Denver, Colorado, and while my older brother Lee and my father went on hikes and sightseeing to the Air Force Academy, my mother was at the National Jewish Medical Center getting tests run and speaking with doctors about her future. The trips became more frequent after that. However, instead of Colorado, we began taking road trips to Durham, North Carolina, where she had begun the process of evaluation as a candidate for a transplant at Duke University, what my parents had told me was the best in the country. In about 2nd or 3rd grade, my dad sat me down and told me we might be moving there. And eventually, we began looking at places to rent and schools that we were going to transfer to. During the spring break of my 4th grade year, my mother had gotten what would be a common cold to you and I, but because of her low immune system and the fact that she had developed high immunity to the medication, her pulmonary function took a dangerous drop. After a few weeks in the hospital, here, I said goodbye to her for the first time. And with my father on one side and my very best friend on the other, I saw my mother ambulanced with my aunt to North Carolina, so she could be with her doctors and begin treatments to strengthen her and prepare her for her surgery. My father took on role of mommy and daddy, and he did exceptionally well. That Mother's Day, that year, we decided to surprise my mother and flew up for the weekend. When we arrived, she looked terrible. She could see that we were scared, and one thing that will always reside with me was in the hallway of the hotel she was staying in. My father turned to my brother and I and said, "I don't want you to be scared if you don't recognize mommy. She's walking with a walker and using oxygen, and from what I've been told, she's lost some weight. At this point, she weighed about 90 pounds. And he was right. She was hard to recognize, and I was scared to hug her because she was fragile. I didn't see her after that for about a month. I finished my school year, and then we moved up to Raleigh. But we only stayed for about 2.5 weeks because she had become too sick for the surgery, and 34 years after the doctors diagnosed her, passed away on June 21st, 2008. I was 9 years old, and my brother was 13. We moved back home and slowly fell into a routine. My father, being a single parent with 2 young children, was not easy on any of us. We all had to grow up a little too fast. As great as my father was, he was in mourning, and though he tried to be strong for us, we could tell he was hurting. I became accustomed to not having my mother check that I had my homework done, and home-cooked meals became less frequent. Unfortunately, my dad isn't the best cook. It was little things at first, but then I was graduating elementary school and my mom wasn't there to see it. She didn't get to see me bat mitzvah or help me pick out my dresses, and when the 8th grade dance came around, she wasn't there to teach me how to put makeup on, and that was really hard. When my brother graduated high school, she wasn't there, and she wasn't there to give him a kiss when we all dropped him off at the University of Central Florida. My mother won't be there when I graduate from high school and watch me go off to college, which I start applying to next fall, and she won't be there to be excited with me when I get my first college acceptance next year. She won't be there when I get my first job, or when I move into my first house, or when I get married or have children of my own. She won't be there because she has cystic fibrosis. You don't live longer and live the life she did with CF, and you don't have children or get married with CF. But she did, and it's amazing what she's done. Over the summer, I did an internship at the South Florida Office of Cystic Fibrosis. I met amazing people like Andy, who work with patients and families. I understand that treatments have improved over the last 30 years, but it's not cured, and I know that firsthand. After my mother died, I was only 9 years old and my brother was 13. But those 4 years between us were miles apart, and he knew what was going on, while I believed she was going to be cured. When she died, he became depressed, lost interest in school, and started hanging out with the wrong kind of people. And he got into drugs. Dad and he had lots of fights, but thank God, because he turned himself around, got his grades up, and ended up graduating with honors. He's now in college where he became an amazing person that I know my mother would be proud of. He's a great leader, he's on track for a successful career with a lot of ambition, and he's in a fraternity now himself. He's so happy, and I'm so happy that he got through this. I would not be the person I am today if it weren't for all the people involved and that helped. My friends, my family, and other patients. People I've met along the way because they've helped so much. My grandparents were there and helped me take care of me and my brother after my mom died and my father was mourning. I have a countless number of friends and family that were taking me in on weekends and helped with everything. However, not everyone has the resources we did, and not everyone with CF has families of their own. My mother was an amazing woman, but I wish I didn't have to speak about her in the past tense, but because of cystic fibrosis, I do. I want to thank you all for supporting CF and helping me help other sons and daughters have their mothers forever, if not as long as possible.